You might think you're buying a brand new car, but what if it's just a recycled one with a new badge? Automakers have been pulling off some serious automotive copy-paste moves for decades, and most people never notice. Today we're exposing 10 cars that look different but are actually the same. Number 10, Toyota GR86 versus Subaru BRZ. No rivalry burns hotter than this one. 2 sports cars, 2 badges, and 1 assembly line. Back in 2012, Toyota and Subaru teamed up to build something the car world had been missing, a lightweight rear-wheel drive coupe that put fun ahead of fuel economy. The result was the Scion FRS and Subaru BRZ, later reborn as the Toyota 86 and eventually the GR86. And here's the kicker, they've been identical twins from day one. Both are built in the same Subaru factory in Gunma, Japan. Both use the same 2.4-liter flat 4 boxer engine pushing 228 horsepower, the same 6-speed manual or automatic gearbox, and even share suspension geometry to the millimeter. Under the skin, you're literally driving the same car, so why do both exist? Simple. Marketing. Toyota sells the GR86 as the track-ready driver-focused coupe, while Subaru pitches the BRZ as the more balanced daily driver. The differences are microscopic. Toyota tunes its suspension slightly stiffer for sharper cornering, while the BRZ leans softer for everyday comfort. And Toyota throws in some perks Subaru doesn't, like a free 1-year membership to the National Autosport Association and a complimentary high-performance driving course. Basically, Toyota hands you the keys and dares you to redline it. Price-wise, they're almost inseparable. The GR86 starts around $30,000, while the BRZ hovers just a few hundred higher depending on trim. The truth? You can't lose either way. It's the same heart, same soul, just wearing a different jersey. Number 9, Pontiac G3 versus Chevrolet Aveo. By 2009, Pontiac wasn't just running out of money, it was running out of ideas. Enter the Pontiac G3, the new subcompact that was supposed to revive the brand, but was actually a recycled Chevrolet Aveo with a different badge and a few cosmetic tweaks. Built by GM's Korean arm Daewoo, the G3 shared everything with the Aveo. Same 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine making 106 horsepower, same 5-speed manual or optional 4-speed automatic, same interior plastics that could double as Tupperware. Even the steering wheel and gauge cluster were copy-paste jobs. The only difference is a slightly angrier front fascia, Pontiac badges, and marketing that tried to convince you it was sporty. Spoiler, it wasn't. It was slow, loud, and so bland it could have doubled as background furniture. In reality, the G3 was GM's last-ditch effort to fill showroom space during the brand's decline. Fewer than 7,000 units were sold in the US before Pontiac officially shut down in 2010. The Aveo didn't exactly thrive either, but at least it stuck around long enough to be remembered, mostly for being cheap. Number 8, Ford Escape versus Mazda Tribute. Back in the early 2000s, Ford and Mazda were more than just corporate partners. They were basically roommates sharing a garage. And out of that cozy relationship came 2 SUVs that looked different on the outside, but were nearly identical underneath, the Ford Escape and Mazda Tribute. Launched in 2001, both were built on the same CD2 platform and rolled off the same assembly line. They shared the same 2.0-liter 4-cylinder or optional 3.0-liter V6 engines, the same transmissions and the same suspension setup. Even the steering response, braking feel, and cabin layout were cloned, down to the cup holders. The only real difference? Attitude. The Ford Escape wore a boxier, rugged look aimed at suburban adventurers. The Mazda Tribute tried to channel a little zoom flair with sleeker lines and slightly sportier handling. But when it came to driving, both felt practically identical. Easy to park, comfortable, and car-like, long before crossovers became the norm. Buyers weren't confused, they just picked the one with the badge they liked more. The Escape became a long-term bestseller, evolving into one of Ford's core models. The Tribute, it quietly faded away in 2011, replaced by the more distinct Mazda CX-5. In the end, the Tribute wasn't a bad SUV, it was just invisible. Number 7, GMC Sierra versus Chevrolet Silverado. If you've ever walked into a dealership and wondered why 2 nearly identical trucks sit side by side, one cheaper, one drenched in chrome, Congratulations, you've just discovered GM's most profitable magic trick. The Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra may wear different badges, but under the skin, they're the same truck. Both ride on GM's full-size T1 platform, both share the same engines, from the 2.7-liter Turbo 4 to the 5.3 and 6.2-liter V8s, and even the 3.0-liter Duramax diesel. Transmissions, frames, towing capacity, all identical. Where things start to diverge is in image. Chevy markets the Silverado as the workhorse, a blue-collar rig meant to get dirty. GMC, on the other hand, aims for premium. Same bones, but polished to look like a business card on wheels. Step into a Sierra Denali, and you'll find real wood trim, stitched leather, and a digital cluster that screams luxury pickup. But that luxury costs you. The base Silverado starts around $37,800, while the top Sierra Denali Ultimate crosses a wallet-melting $86,900. So what are you really paying for? Chrome. And marketing. Lots of it. Still, GM's badge engineering gamble works. The Silverado sells in massive numbers, and the Sierra gives buyers a way to feel exclusive, even if the truck underneath is doing the same job. Number 6. Chrysler Town and Country versus Dodge Grand Caravan. At one point, Chrysler didn't just dominate the minivan market, it invented it. But somewhere along the way, they decided one wasn't enough, so they built two of the exact same thing. Meet the Chrysler Town and Country and the Dodge Grand Caravan. Two minivans so identical, they could have swapped badges and no one would have noticed. Both were powered by Chrysler's 3.6-liter Pentaster V6, making around 283 horsepower, and both used the same 6-speed automatic transmission. They handled the same, seated the same, and even shared Chrysler's famous stow-and-go seats that folded flat into the floor, the single feature that made minivans cool again. Well, sort of. The difference came down to branding. The Dodge Grand Caravan was the bargain version, simple, affordable, and aimed squarely at families and fleet buyers. The Chrysler Town and Country, on the other hand, was the premium minivan. Same engine, but wrapped in leather seats, chrome trim, power everything, and a higher price tag. And here's the twist. Chrysler marketed both for years, cannibalizing its own sales. In 2016, the Town and Country was quietly retired and replaced by the far more upscale Chrysler Pacifica. The Grand Caravan stuck around a few more years, but without updates, slowly fading out by 2020. In the end, they were two sides of the same coin, proof that even the company that invented the minivan wasn't above cloning its own success. Number 5. Toyota BZ4X versus Subaru Solterra. If you've ever looked at a Toyota BZ4X and thought, wait, doesn't that look exactly like a Subaru? You're absolutely right. Welcome to the electric era of badge engineering. The Toyota BZ4X and Subaru Solterra are essentially electric twins separated at birth. Built on Toyota's new ETNGA platform, they share the same chassis, battery packs, motors, and most of their interiors, down to the digital gauge cluster and steering wheel design. In fact, they even roll off the same assembly line in Japan. The difference is marketing, once again. Toyota's version is slightly cheaper, starting around $38,200, and offers both front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive options. The Solterra, on the other hand, is all-wheel drive only in the US because Subaru wants you to think it's the more rugged one. Performance, nearly identical. Both deliver around 215 horsepower and 249 pound-feet of torque in all-wheel drive trim. Range is where Toyota gets the edge, up to 252 miles compared to the Solterra's 227. Otherwise, it's the same electric SUV, just wearing a different uniform. Here's the fun part, both are actually selling decently. In 2024, Toyota's BZ4X sales jumped 97.8%, hitting over 18,000 units, while Subaru sold around 12,000 Solterras, proving that two brands can sell the same car successfully if the badges tell different stories. Number 4, Saab 92X versus Subaru Impreza. In the mid-2000s, Saab and Subaru had a brief, weird fling, and what came out of it was one of the strangest rebadges in car history. Meet the Saab 92X, also known to enthusiasts as the Subaru. Underneath its Swedish badge and European flair was a Subaru Impreza wagon, pure and simple. This wasn't just inspired by the Impreza, it was the Impreza, right down to the boxer engine, all-wheel drive system, and even the interior layout. See, back then, General Motors owned a slice of Subaru and decided to give Saab a quick entry into the compact market without building something new. So they took an Impreza WRX, gave it a new nose, smoother bumpers, extra sound insulation, and softer suspension tuning, then sold it it as a luxury-leaning alternative. The Aero trim was literally a WRX in disguise, complete with a turbocharged 2.0-liter flat 4 making 227 horsepower. It actually drove great, quieter, smoother, and more refined than the Subaru. The problem? No one knew who it was for. Subaru fans didn't want to pay extra for what was basically their own car in fancier clothes, and Saab loyalists didn't want a Japanese hatchback pretending to be European. Only about 10,000 units were sold in the US before the model was axed in 2006, but over time, it found a cult following. Today, enthusiasts appreciate it as a quirky piece of automotive history, a car born from a corporate experiment that somehow worked better than anyone expected. Number 3. Mitsubishi 3000 GT vs Dodge Stealth. Back in the early 1990s, Japan was in its golden era of over-engineering, and Mitsubishi decided to show off. But in the process, it also gave birth to one of the most confusing twin cars of the decade. Meet the Mitsubishi 3000 GT and the Dodge Stealth, two high-tech super coupes that looked different but were, under the skin, nearly identical. Both were built by Mitsubishi in Japan and shared the same platform, drivetrain, and engine lineup. Top trims: the 3000 GT VR4 and the Stealth RT twin turbo packed a 3.0-liter twin turbocharged V6 producing around 300 horsepower paired to a 5-speed manual and all-wheel drive. They even featured advanced systems years ahead of their time: 4-wheel steering, active aerodynamics, and adjustable suspension. But here's where things got interesting. Mitsubishi reserved its most advanced features, like active aero, for the 3000 GT alone, leaving the Dodge Stealth as the slightly decontented sibling. Same performance bones, fewer toys. So why did both exist? In the early 90s, Chrysler and Mitsubishi had a close alliance, and the Dodge Stealth gave Chrysler a way to sell a Japanese-built halo car in American showrooms. Problem was, Dodge buyers didn't want a pricey sports coupe from a brand known for pickup trucks and neons. Sales reflected that. The Stealth sold about 65,000 units before disappearing in 1996, while the 3000 GT lived on until 1999, selling more than 150,000 units globally. Today, the 3000 GT VR4 is a cult classic, often fetching over $100,000 in pristine condition, while the Stealth remains an underrated gem that never got the credit it deserved. Number 2. Nissan Frontier vs Mercedes-Benz X-Class. When Mercedes-Benz decided it wanted a slice of the pickup truck market, most people expected German engineering perfection, something rugged, refined, and built from the ground up. Instead, what they got was a Nissan. Meet the Mercedes-Benz X-Class, a mid-sized truck that looked every bit the luxury hauler on the outside, but underneath, it was almost entirely a Nissan Frontier. Built on the same ladder frame chassis as the Nissan Navara, the global version of the Frontier, the X-Class shared nearly everything: chassis components, suspension, and even most of the interior architecture. Lower trim models used Nissan's 2.3-liter diesel engines, while the top-tier X350D swapped in a Mercedes V6 turbo diesel, producing 255 horsepower. The one major mechanical difference: Mercedes tried to elevate it with premium materials, reshaped body panels, and of course that 3-pointed star on the grille. But customers quickly realized they were paying luxury car prices for a truck that felt suspiciously familiar. Because it was. Starting at around $45,000 and climbing past $60,000, the X-Class struggled to justify its price when a Navara, or a Frontier, could do the same job for nearly half the cost. Sales were disastrous. By 2020, Mercedes quietly killed the project, admitting the obvious: people who buy trucks want capability, not status symbols. Number 1. Toyota Yaris vs Scion IA. And finally, the car that outlived its own brand. When the Scion IA hit showrooms in 2015, Toyota pitched it as a stylish, youth-focused sedan to bring energy back to the dying Scion lineup. But what most people didn't realize was that it wasn't really a Scion at all. It was a Mazda 2, built by Mazda in Mexico and rebadged by Toyota. Under the hood sat the same 1.5-liter Skyactiv 4-cylinder, paired with either a 6-speed manual or automatic, both designed and manufactured by Mazda. The chassis, suspension, and even the infotainment system were pure Mazda as well. Toyota's only real contribution: a new grille, a different badge, and the marketing budget. When the Scion brand was discontinued just a year later, Toyota simply peeled off the Scion badge, renamed the car the Yaris IA, and kept selling it. By 2020, it was renamed again, this time just Toyota Yaris Sedan, quietly continuing its life as a rebadged Mazda long after Scion itself was buried.